Technical Writing for Inspectors, Module 17, Technical Language. Instructor, Gary A. Pace, PE, CWI, Katy, Texas Welding Engineering.com. Learning objectives. Okay, so we're going to talk about what is technical language, technical words, a little bit about technical writing, beware of scope creep, understand what the reader already knows, simplify the language at every opportunity, define new or unfamiliar terms, use technical terms consistently, hints and tips, and then third-party review before you print this out or hit the send button. So what is technical language? Technical language refers to written or oral communication that is specialized content. My mother is a native English speaker, but I could talk to her about welding and she would not understand anything that I'm saying because it's its own language unto itself. I could talk about, we need to use 309 schedule 40 pipe and I need a U-groove bevel on there and I need you to weld it with gas tungsten arc welding. My mom would not have a clue. She's got a master's degree in education and is a native English speaker, but I just spoke a foreign language. She's not going to get it. So sometimes when we bring people into our world, into the technical language world, we might be working with people that don't know the words we're using. So we need to help get them to where they understand. And everyday language, as opposed to technical language, uses common terms, common business terms, just general language terms that we use every day. That would be everyday language, non-technical language. And as I've just used as an illustration, technical language is a lot different than the language you use in everyday conversations. Also, when we're writing, the tone, voice, and mood of your text that you write down are all elements that differentiate technical writing from other forms of writing, and we need to be cognizant of this. So technical words are words that have specific meaning in informational text such as science, math, engineering, or construction. It's just a whole different vocabulary that you might not run across in everyday conversations. When at all possible in technical documents, you might want to use common language if you can. A lot of times I'll do this and break something down and explain, if depending on who my reader is, I'll explain it in a certain way to them. And I'll use less technical terms doing it. So with technical writing, it's about the delivery of technical information to an audience. And depending on who your audience is, you might be able to use technical terms and you might have to kind of tone them down and do some explanation in regard to what those terms really mean. I try and use plain language when possible in technical documentation. This helps make the writing a lot more clear to whoever's reading it. And it helps them digest and understand what I'm writing a lot easier than if I just load it up with technical terminology. Okay, so we need to understand a lot of times what the reader already knows. Who are we writing this document for? Who's going to be reading it? Sometimes you're just going to be writing to inform or educate somebody. But when you're doing that, you need to understand how much the audience already knows. Am I writing this document for somebody that has zero understanding of welding? Or am I writing this document for welding, for another welding engineer or a welding inspector? Who's the receiving end of this? And I use welding as an example, but you need to understand what the person on the other end understands about the subject matter, especially when we get into technical issues. And I've run across this a lot of times when explaining welding stuff, welding related technical issues, is that the person on the other end doesn't have a great degree of knowledge in what I am talking about. So you need to understand that they don't understand what you know. So their knowledge base is significantly less than your knowledge base. So we just need to understand this when we're writing a document to people and conveying information. And it's really pointless to just get down into the nitty gritty on how something works on a technical subject if the person on the other end doesn't have a basic understanding of what you're talking about. So if they don't, you're explaining what a transmission and how the inner workings of an automotive transmission, and these people don't know what a transmission is, well, you're probably going to have to back up and educate them a little bit. So that's something to keep in mind when writing technical documents. So I'm a big proponent of simplifying the language at every opportunity. You know, it's an art form to do technical writing, and a lot of times you can overcomplicate what you're saying. A lot of times just breaking it down and making it very simple is a lot better than overcomplicating things. Uh, you know, and one time, like I said before, a common problem in technical writing is it's written without taking into consideration that the reader might or might not understand what you're talking about. So sometimes you need to back off or use simpler language. Simpler language and the shortest, simplest way to explain something complicated is a lot of times the best way to go about it. So with new or unfamiliar terms, uh, sometimes you might be using terminology that the reader doesn't understand. So uh, you might have to define those terms. You know, you're going to have to do one of two things: find a definition, do a Google search, and then paste that definition into your document. Don't reinvent the wheel on this one. Just find a definition, paste it in there. And if you have a lot of technical terms, get all those definitions into a glossary. A lot of times that works. And just put a glossary in there as an extra page with a whole list of definitions for the person who's reading to look things up if they have questions. So if you're going to use technical terms, use them consistently. Apply the same technical terms or words consistently throughout your document. Consistency in naming is very crucial. So once you've named a widget as a widget, you don't rename the widget as a gizmo or a contraption. Keep using widget for widgets, contraptions for contraptions, and gizmos for gizmos. Don't cross them up or whatever. Be consistent throughout the whole document. Consistency is crucial. It avoids confusion and making you look like you don't have a concept of what you're doing. People are going to question your technical expertise if you don't use technical terms consistently through the course of the document. A couple of hints and tips. Simplify your language usage. Don't overcomplicate it. Write for speed readers and skimmers if you can, because a lot of times if they might not read your whole document. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But a lot of times people just, on these technical documents, they'll skim through it. So, do your best to write for those guys. When you can, use graphics in conjunction to technical explanations to help illustrate what you're talking about. Also, this is kind of a common thing, but get somebody to read and review any technical documents you put together. And tell this person to just be rough on you in regards to grammar errors and spelling and maybe even fact checking to make sure that what you're writing is accurate and makes sense. Sometimes we need a sanity check on our writing. So don't be afraid to get a third party review before, publishing your document or sending it to your reader. Questions. Gary A. Pace, PECWI, Katy, Texas, TexasWeldingEngineering.com. Got any questions or comments? Contact me and I'll try and see what I can do to help you.